Born Eldra Patrick DeBarge on June 4th, 1961 in Detroit, Michigan, DeBarge was raised in a deeply musical family. A product of interracial marriage, his mother is African American and his father is of French ancestry. The DeBarge children found solace in music and the church as they tried to navigate the complexities of being mixed race in America. His mother, Ederline DeBarge, a talented singer in her own right, taught her children how to sing and wanted them to use their gifts strictly for the church, as the DeBarge children grew up singing in the church choir and playing instruments. Gospel music in Detroit's rich musical environment shaped by Motown played a critical role in shaping the DeBarge sound. From a young age, El showed exceptional musical talent. He learned to play piano by ear. His mother once told a story of being woken up in her sleep and told to anoint El's hands as he was going to become a great pianist, and the prophecy would later be fulfilled. He developed perfect or near perfect pitch and demonstrated an intuitive understanding of melody and harmony. His voice, light, flexible, and emotionally expressive, stood out even amongst his gifted siblings. Those early years laid the foundation for a career rooted in melody, songwriting, and musicianship. These gifts intensified at a time of unimaginable abuse at the hands of their father. Although I haven't found one interview where El has ever spoken badly about either of his parents, nor has he ever mentioned being abused, his siblings, on the other hand, share stories of jaw-dropping torment at the hands of their father and at times eldest brother Bobby, and neglect from their mother. Through all the pain and confusion, the DeBarge children still managed to hone in on their talents and form a music group that comprised of Sister Bunny, Mark, Randy, James, and of course El under their namesake DeBarge. DeBarge emerged as one of the most promising family acts of the late 70s to early 80s. DeBarge's early albums introduced a fresh romantic sound that blended classic Motown polish with modern R&B and pop influences. Songs like I Like It, All This Love, Love Me in a Special Way, and Time Will Reveal showcase El's falsetto and the group's refined harmonies. Their music emphasized tenderness and emotional openness at a time when R&B was shifting towards funk-driven and harder-edged sounds. The group's success was significant. They earned gold and platinum records, frequent radio play, and a devoted fan base. El DeBarge in particular became a heartthrob and a symbol of sensitive masculinity in popular music. His voice conveyed longing, sincerity, and romance in a way that resonated across gender and age lines. Despite commercial success, DeBarge's rise was complicated by internal struggles and external pressures. Like many artists associated with Motown, the group dealt with issues related to creative control, management, and financial compensation. El, who was deeply invested in songwriting and production, sometimes felt constrained by the label's expectations. More significantly, substance abuse began to take a toll. Drug addiction affected multiple members of the DeBarge family, and El was no exception, though he didn't succumb to the family curse until much later in his career. The pressures of fame, touring, and trying to self-soothe the pain of their traumatic childhoods contributed to a growing dependence that would later derail both group cohesion and individual careers. By the mid-1980s, tensions within DeBarge increased, and the group eventually disbanded. While their legacy remained strong, the end of the group marked a turning point for El DeBarge, who now faced the challenge of redefining himself as a solo artist. El DeBarge's solo career began with high expectations, and initially he delivered. His debut solo album, El DeBarge, which came out in 1986, was a commercial and critical success. The album produced hit singles such as Who's Johnny, which was a major pop crossover hit, and Love Always and Someone. Love that record, by the way. In 1989, he dropped Gemini, and in 1992, In the Storm, which showed artistic growth and emotional depth. Songs like Heaven and Somebody Loves You reflected maturity and introspection. However, behind the scenes, El's struggles with addiction were intensifying, affecting his reliability, public image, and relationships with record labels. By the early 1990s, El DeBarge's career entered a difficult period. Substance abuse led to legal problems, inconsistent output, and strained industry relationships. While he continued to release music, it lacked the promotional support and momentum of his earlier work. Albums released during this period did not achieve the same commercial success, and L increasingly disappeared from the public eye. His once promising solo trajectory stalled as he grappled with addiction and its consequences, including incarceration and financial hardship. For many fans, this period was heartbreaking. DeBarge had all of the elements of a lasting superstar: talent, charisma, originality, the looks, but personal struggles overshadowed his gifts. His absence from mainstream music created a sense of what might have been, even as his earlier work continued to influence younger artists. And despite career interruptions, DeBarge's influence on R&B and pop music has been profound and enduring. His falsetto style helped shape the sound of romantic R&B, influencing artists across multiple generations. Singers such as Babyface, Tevin Kimball, Maxwell, and other artists in the neo-soul movement have cited or reflected his melodic and vocal approach. L's songwriting focused on emotional honesty rather than bravado. He showed that vulnerability could be powerful and that softness could exist with strength. His work has been sampled and referenced in hip-hop and R&B, further cementing his legacy. In the 2000s, DeBarge began a process of personal and spiritual transformation. After years of addiction and instability, he sought recovery and embraced faith as a grounding force. This period marked a significant shift in his life as he distanced himself from destructive patterns and recommitted to his health and artistry. This transformation was not immediate or easy, but it laid the groundwork for a long-awaited comeback. Fans who have followed his journey saw signs of renewed clarity and purpose, both personally and creatively. DeBarge's comeback reached a high point with the release of Second Chance in 2010. The album was widely praised for its honesty, maturity, and musical quality. Rather than attempting to recreate his 1980s sound, L embraced growth, reflection, and spiritual awareness. Songs on Second Chance address redemption, accountability, and hope, resonating deeply with listeners who had grown alongside him. The album earned Grammy nominations and reintroduced L as a serious, respected artist. This period marked a true artistic renaissance. L performed live with renewed confidence and participated in interviews that openly discussed his past and reclaimed his place in the R&B canon. His story became one of resilience rather than tragedy. DeBarge's career cannot be measured solely by chart positions or sale figures. His true legacy lies in the impact and influence he had on R&B and hip-hop. He and his siblings may not have known it at the time, but this group was ahead of their time. Their music represents a bridge between classic Motown romanticism and bold R&B. His voice remains instantly recognizable, and his best songs continue to feel timeless. Moreover, his life story, marked by brilliance, struggle, and redemption, adds depth to his artistry. DeBarge's journey also highlights broad themes in the music industry: the pressures placed on young artists, the cost of fame without adequate support, and the possibility of recovery and renewal. His willingness to confront his past has earned him renewed respect and admiration. DeBarge has continued to tour heavily since his comeback and has not taken a break even after the passing of his famous older brother Tommy DeBarge from the group Switch in 2021, or his beloved mother Ederline, who passed away in 2024. L has continued to tour through it all, and maybe keeping busy this way helps him to stay focused and prevents him from relapsing. I had the pleasure of seeing him live, and he is very charismatic and he sounds amazing. And you know how they say it's a blessing not to look like what you've gone through? How about he looks like it never happened? You would not be able to look at this man and tell that he spent years struggling with drug addiction. God really kept him. Today, DeBarge's net worth is an estimated $400,000, which seems extremely low. Yes, his career was short-lived, but his time in DeBarge, he and his siblings in DeBarge and Switch made a massive impact. Their music is the most sampled and interpolated of any artist in hip-hop and R&B.
You recognize this sample? Part 2.
I like the way you comb your hair, and I like those stylish clothes you wear. I like the way you wear your hair. I like the style.
You like the stylish clothes we wear, and you like our flat top style of hair. It's just a
We like the way you comb your hair. We like those stylish clothes you wear. It's just
I like the way you comb your hair. I like the stylish clothes you wear. It's just a little. I like the
talk to this cup. Ring around the rosy.
And now my heart can't take no more like this. Don't go.
Not only did the siblings write their own music, but Elle produced and composed their music. I would think off the publishing alone, they could all collect nice residual checks, considering their music is still very much relevant today. But Elle made this shocking revelation recently.
Speaking of sampling, it's a song called One More Chance by Biggie.
Of course, we know it. And I Ain't Mad at You by Tupac.
Yep, and the girl, When My Days Are Cold Without You.
And another one.
So that stayed with me.
Yeah, stay with me.
I wrote and produced that, but my credit's not on there because, somebody made a mistake.
But we know. We know what it is.
No, the fans didn't know that.
Really?
This is one of the many reasons why I can't stand Nick Cannon, because he didn't really ask any follow-up questions, or maybe they got edited out, but how does this consistently keep happening? It's not about the fans knowing if he wrote the music, it's about compensation and recognition, and it's crazy that he didn't get that fixed right away, because this was way before the sampling and the drug issues. It just seems intentional to me, and this is the very thing that the late Angie Stone was talking about, not being properly accredited for their work and missing out on residual income that's owed to them. Which is crazy that these labels get away with this, so it would make sense that his net worth is low. He's recouping from a drug habit, record labels greed, divorce, as he's been divorced 3 times, and he got a whole bunch of kids. Like, Kim and Nick Cannon are allegedly tied with 12 kids, so his child support alone probably keeps him on tour, as some of his kids are still minors, and that's another thing. The number 12, from my research, is false, and is more likely 15, allegedly. Anyway, I don't want to end this on a messy note, as Elle and his siblings, including Chico, deserve all their flowers. Switch for their contributions to R&B, soul, and later hip-hop. DeBarge for their contributions to R&B, pop, and hip-hop. And Chico DeBarge for his contributions to the neo-soul movement. I really hate that he gets left out of the conversation, but the influence that this family has had on the culture cannot be denied. And if you want to see Elle in concert, he is in New York performing for the City Winery. Kenneth Babyface Edmonds occupies a rare position in American history. Unlike artists whose influence is measured by public visibility or chart dominance under their own name, Babyface's impact is most evident in the careers of others. Over 4 decades, he has helped define the sound of contemporary R&B and pop through songwriting, production, label leadership, and artist development. His work has shaped not only hit records, but also emotional language of popular music from the late 1980s onward. Though widely respected within the industry, Babyface has often remained less visible to the general public than the other artists whose success he helped engineer. Yet his contributions to R&B, pop, and business of music place him among the most influential figures of his generation. Babyface was born Kenneth Brian Edmonds on April 10, 1959 in Indianapolis, Indiana. Raised in a working-class family as one of 6 children, Edmonds grew up during a period when soul, funk, and Motown dominated popular music. He has often cited artists such as Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder, Donny Hathaway, and the Jackson 5 as formative influences. When he was in the 8th grade, Edmonds' father, Marvin Dallas, died of lung cancer, leaving his mother, Barbara Jean Edmonds, to raise their 6 sons by herself. As a teenager, Edmonds taught himself how to play the guitar and began writing songs using music as an outlet for personal expression. Bootsy Collins gave him the nickname Babyface due to his skinny frame and youthful appearance, which later became his professional moniker. Following high school, Edmonds joined a local funk band called Manchild. Though the group achieved limited commercial success, it provided Edmonds with early exposure to studio recordings, touring, and professional songwriting. More importantly, it introduced him to Antonio L.A. Reid, a drummer whose ambitions aligned closely with his own. Edmonds and Reid formed a creative partnership that would prove pivotal. In the mid-1980s, they co-founded the R&B group The Deal. Blending funk rhythms with emerging electronic production techniques, the group released several albums, scoring moderate hits such as Sweet November and Two Occasions. Two Occasions, released in 1987, marked an early example of Edmonds' songwriting style, restrained, emotional, direct, and focused on romantic uncertainty rather than spectacle. Though the deal never became a commercial force, the group's success enabled Edmonds and Reed to transition from performers to full-time songwriters and producers. By the late 1980s, the duo had begun working with other artists, writing and producing songs that quickly gained attention within the industry. Their work combined melodic accessibility with emotional clarity, setting them apart from contemporaries who favored more aggressive or trend-driven approaches. In 1989, Edmonds and Reed co-founded LaFace Records as a joint venture with Arista Records, led by music executive Clive Davis. The label began one of the most influential imprints of the 1990s, playing a central role in bringing R&B and hip-hop into the mainstream. As a co-founder, Babyface served not only as producer and songwriter, but also as creative executive involved in artist development. LaFace's roster eventually included Toni Braxton, TLC, Usher, Outkast, and later Pink, among others. The label's success reflected a broader shift in the music industry. As R&B and hip-hop increasingly shaped popular culture, Babyface's influence at LaFace was characterized by an emphasis on melody, vocal performance, and emotional coherence, often favoring long-term artist growth over short-term commercial success. One of Babyface's most significant collaborations emerged in the early 1990s with singer Toni Braxton. He wrote and produced much of her early material, helping her define her sound as a dramatic, emotionally intense balladeer. Songs such as Another Sad Love Song, Breathe Again, and You're Making Me High established Braxton as a major force in R&B. Throughout the 1990s, Babyface emerged as one of the most prolific and successful singer-songwriter producers in music history. His credits during this period include Boyz II Men, Whitney Houston, Madonna, Tevin Campbell, Brandy, Mary J. Blige, Eric Clapton, Mariah Carey, and Michael Jackson. Again, these are just to name a few. He's practically written hits for everyone. Think of a favorite song from the 90s, check the liner notes, and see if his name isn't listed as singer-songwriter or producer. And don't get me started on the soundtracks. Waiting to Exhale was flawless. One of my favorites to this day. And what about Soul Food? Come on, somebody. This man's pen game is unmatched. Many of these songs topped the Billboard 100 for extended periods. End of the Road and I'll Make Love to You set records for Boyz II Men, reinforcing Babyface's reputation as a consistent hitmaker. He also had success in his solo recording career. Parallel to his behind-the-scenes success, Babyface maintained a solo career as a recording artist. Albums such as Tender Lover in 1989, For the Coolin' You in 1993, and The Day in 1996, and they produced hit singles including Whip Appeal, When Can I See You Again, and Every Time I Close My Eyes. Babyface's contributions have been recognized with numerous awards. He has won a total of 12 Grammy Awards and has a net worth of $200 million. In his personal life, he is twice divorced, first to producer Tracy Edmonds, they share 2 sons, and the second to backup dancer Nicole Pattenberg. Janet Jackson fans might recognize her as
Nasty, Nicky, Willingness, take it a little bit.
Beginning in the 2000s, Babyface reduced his output as a dominant chart producer, but remained active in the industry. He continued collaborating with newer artists like Beyonce, Ariana Grande, Bruno Mars, and SZA. His 2022 album, Girls Night Out, featured collaborations with contemporary female artists and was widely praised for balancing modern production with classic songwriting. The project demonstrated his ability to adapt without abandoning the principles that defined his earlier work. Public appreciation for Babyface's legacy increased in the 2020s through his appearance in the popular Versus series, which highlighted his extensive catalog. So why is it that Babyface is still out here touring, especially when it's clear that he doesn't need the money? In fact, when I was researching any lawsuits, I found out he's the one doing the suing. In 2006, Babyface filed a breach of contract lawsuit against singer Anita Baker, claiming she owes him more than $250,000. According to the lawsuit, Baker broke 2 oral agreements with Edmonds, who co-wrote and produced and performed on the song Like You Used to Do on Baker's 2004 album My Everything. The lawsuit claims that Baker refused to pay Edmonds producer royalties equaling at least $100,000 from an estimated more than 500,000 albums sold. Edmonds also alleges that he and Baker had an agreement to play 4 concerts together, but that Baker canceled 2 shows and refused to pay $150,000 for those dates. And it seemed like they worked everything out, because in 2023 the two went on tour together, but then Anita Baker kicked him off her tour, citing cyberbullying by Babyface's fans.
So much for sweet love. These days, when it comes to superstars Anita Baker and Kenneth Babyface Edmonds, it's more like R&B. The 8-time Grammy winner announcing in a tweet she's moving on with her Songstress tour without Babyface, blaming cyberbullying, verbal abuse, and threats of violence from the fan base of our special guest / support act.
Still no Anita.
The dispute started with technical issues at a New Jersey show last month, allegedly forcing the concert promoter to skip Edmonds so Baker could begin on time.
Unfortunately, this breaks my heart, y'all. Unfortunately, Babyface won't able.
In the aftermath, upset Babyface fans seeming to blame the forced no-show on Baker. Earlier this week, Baker tweeting at Babyface, "Please call off your fans."
She is the headliner, and she brought Babyface on as a special guest. And that really seems to be the point of confusion, I think, for a lot of people who've been following the story.
Babyface says he's saddened Baker bounced him from the tour. It's unfortunate and disheartening to see how things have played out via social media. While I was looking forward to the rest of the dates, I have nothing but love and respect for Anita, and I wish her the best for the remainder of her tour.
So why does Babyface keep dealing with the headaches and continue to tour? Well, of course, it's the love for the music and his fans, but unpopular opinion, I'm going to have to say ego.
It's interesting.
Chapel.
You guys want to do that?
In a truly horrendous moment on the Grammys red carpet tonight, the Associated Press, Krista Ferreira, made an absolute embarrassment of herself by yelling out to Chapel Roan right in the middle of their interview with Babyface, who was mid-answer, and yeah, he decided to wrap his own interview.
Go do that.
So sorry, baby. I'm so sorry. Hello, how's it going, Chapel? Hello.
2 hours later, right at the end of their live stream, Krista apologized.
I'm really sorry about interrupting Babyface earlier. Chapel Roan had come up.
Oh, we know.
There was a lot of commotion, as there is on these carpets.
No, you made the commotion. There wasn't a bunch of stuff going on around you. No, it was actually pretty calm. It's a very calm red carpet, actually. Yeah, there wasn't a lot going on right around you directly at all. You made the commotion.
But I'm a big Babyface fan.
But a much bigger fan of Chapel Roan.
And as are we all, and so I just wanted to say that I really apologize.
Leslie's facial expression, her co-host right to her left, through this whole apology, is my mood as well. Honestly, I'm surprised she was on air after that. If I was the producer of that live stream, she would have been off air for the rest of the show. If I was her co-host, I would refuse to do another interview with her for the rest of that live stream.
But it's people like this who, in my opinion, make entertainers fear irrelevancy, so they feel this pressure to remain out there and be seen so that the public doesn't forget about them. But unfortunately, people's attention spans are short and getting shorter by the day. But no one, and I mean no one, can take away from Babyface's impact and influence. Stevie Wonder is one of my favorite male artists of all time. He's an artist that I've never gotten to see perform live, and I guess fortunately for me and other fans, he's an artist that says he never wants to retire and he's constantly on tour, so hopefully I'll get to catch him soon. I've grown up listening to Stevie Wonder's music, even though he's before my time. It just shows how his music is timeless and multi-generational. One of the qualities that I've always admired about him is his sense of humor in regards to his blindness. Maybe he senses that people are nervous or uncomfortable around him, so he always uses humor as an icebreaker.
All right, let me read this. How you doing, by the way?
Oh, I'm fine.
Let me take my glasses off just to see if you look the way everybody says you look.
If you drink too much, I'll have to stay. Hey! Daylight come and we wanna go. You're going to have to be driven home by me already. Daylight come and we wanna go.
Now, even though I'm familiar with his music, I'm not familiar at all with his personal life. And unfortunately, I found some not so great things about him. But in this video, we'll be focusing more on his artistry and less about the mess. So let's get into this child prodigy turned musical genius, Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder was born Steveland Hardaway Judkins on May 13, 1950 in Saginaw, Michigan. He was born prematurely, and complications during neonatal care resulted in retinopathy of prematurity, leaving him blind shortly after birth. His family later moved to Detroit, Michigan, a city that would soon become synonymous with African American musical innovation. Growing up in a religious household, Wonder was immersed in gospel music from a young age, singing in church choirs and developing an early appreciation for rhythm, harmony, and vocal expression. Despite his blindness, Wonder exhibited exceptional musical talent. By early childhood, he had taught himself to play the piano, harmonica, drums, and bass guitar. His ability to hear and replicate melodies and harmonies astonished those around him, and his musical development progressed rapidly without formal instruction. Music became both a creative outlet and a means of communication, allowing Wonder to interpret the world through sound. At age 11, Wonder was discovered by Ronnie White of The Miracles, who introduced him to Berry Gordy, the founder of Motown Records. Gordy immediately recognized the boy's extraordinary talent and signed him to the label in 1961 and rebranded him as Little Stevie Wonder. He became one of Motown's youngest artists at the time and one of the most remarkable success stories. Stevie Wonder's early career was shaped by Motown's tightly controlled production system. During the 1960s, Motown operated like an assembly line, with dedicated songwriters, producers, and musicians, crafting hits for the label's artists. As a child artist, Wonder had limited creative control, but his natural charisma and musical abilities set him apart. His first album showcased his vocal talent and harmonica skills, but it was the 1963 live recording Fingertips Part 2 that catapulted him into. At just 13 years old, he became the youngest artist in history to achieve this feat. Throughout the remainder of the decade, Wonder continued to release a steady stream of successful singles, including Uptight, Everything's Alright, For Once in My Life, Signed, Sealed, Delivered, I'm Yours, and My Cherie Amour. These songs reflected the polished Motown sound and demonstrated Wonder's growth from a novelty act into a mature vocalist and performer. However, despite his success, Wonder grew increasingly dissatisfied with Motown's restrictions. Like many artists at the label, he had little control over songwriting, production, or publishing rights. As he matured artistically and personally, he sought greater independence and the opportunity to explore music on his own terms. The expiration of Wonder's original Motown contract in 1971 marked a pivotal turning point in his career. After briefly allowing the contract to lapse, Wonder renegotiated a groundbreaking new deal that granted him full artistic control, ownership of his publishing, and a significantly higher royalty rate. The level of autonomy was unprecedented for a young black artist in the early 70s and set a new standard within the music industry. His 1972 album Music of My Mind marked the beginning of a new era. The album was introspective and experimental, moving away from conventional pop structures toward more personal and layered compositions. Later that year, Talking Book further established Wonder's creative rebirth. The album featured Superstition, one of the most iconic songs, built around a funky clavinet riff and complex rhythmic structure. The song became a massive commercial success and demonstrated Wonder's ability to merge innovation and mainstream appeal. The mid-1970s represented the peak of Stevie Wonder's artistic output. Often referred to as his classic period, during this time Wonder released a series of albums that are widely regarded as amongst the greatest in popular music history. In 1973, Wonder released Inner Visions, one of my favorite albums by him, by the way, an album that combined musical sophistication with incisive social commentary. Songs such as Living for the City address racial injustice, poverty, and systematic inequality, while tracks like Higher Ground explore themes of spirituality and self-awareness. The album won the Grammy Award for Album of the Year and solidified Wonder's reputation as both a musical innovator and socially conscious artist. Fulfillingness, first finale, followed in 1974, offering a more reflective and romantic tone while maintaining lyrically depth and musically complex. The album earned Wonder another Grammy for Album of the Year, making him one of the few artists to win the award consecutively. In 1976, Wonder released Songs in the Keys of Life, widely considered his magnum opus. A double album accompanied by a bonus EP, it represented the culmination of his artistic vision. The album encompassed a broad range of styles, emotions, and themes, from the jubilant celebration of music in Sir Duke to the intimate joy of fatherhood in Isn't She Lovely, and the social critique of Village Ghetto Land. Songs in the Key of Life was both a critical and commercial triumph, spending weeks at #1 on the charts and earning Wonder his third Grammy for Album of the Year in 4 years. The album's scope, ambition, and emotional resonance established it as one of the defining works of the 20th century. Following the monumental success of Songs in the Key of Life, Wonder faced the challenge of sustaining his artistic momentum. While his later work did not always match the groundbreaking nature of his mid-1970s output, he remained a dominant force in popular music. Albums such as Hotter Than July demonstrated Wonder's ability to adapt to contemporary trends while retaining his musical identity. The reggae-influenced Master Blaster Jammin' paid tribute to Bob Marley and introduced reggae rhythms to a broader pop audience. In 1984, Wonder released the soundtrack for The Woman in Red, which included the global hit I Just Called to Say I Love You. The song topped charts worldwide and won the Academy Award for Best Original Song, although some critics viewed it as overly simplistic compared to his earlier work. Its popularity underscored Wonder's enduring appeal. Throughout the 80s, Wonder collaborated with a wide range of artists, including Paul McCartney, Michael Jackson, Dionne Warwick, Bruce Springsteen. His duet with McCartney, Ebony and Ivory, addressed racial harmony and became one of the decade's most recognizable songs. By the 1990s, Stevie Wonder's output slowed considerably. Rather than releasing albums frequently, he focused on special projects, films, soundtracks, live performances, and collaborations. Albums such as Jungle Fever and Conversation Piece received mixed critical reception, but continued to reflect his commitment to social themes and musical craftsmanship. Wonder's influence during this period was perhaps most evident in the work of younger artists who cited him as a major inspiration. His innovations in songwriting, harmony, and production shaped the development of contemporary R&B, hip-hop, and pop music. In 2005, Wonder released A Time to Love, his first studio album in a decade. The album reflected a mature perspective emphasizing themes of unity, love, and global harmony. While it did not achieve the same impact as his earlier classics, it reaffirmed his artistic integrity and ongoing relevance. Stevie Wonder's career cannot be separated from his social activism. He has consistently used his platform to advocate for civil rights, disability rights, and social justice. One of the most important, significant contributions was his role to the campaign to establish Martin Luther King Jr. Day as a U.S. national holiday. His song Happy Birthday became an anthem for the movement, and his advocacy played a crucial role in the holiday's official recognition in 1983. As a blind artist, Wonder has been a powerful advocate for disability inclusion, challenging stereotypes and promoting accessibility. His success has reshaped public perceptions of disability, demonstrating that artistic excellence transcends physical limitations. Now, even though I love me some Stevie Wonder, he's been involved in quite a few lawsuits throughout his career. From being extorted by a family member to being sued for allegedly passing out STDs and everything in between, but I wanted to focus on one particular lawsuit. So remember when I mentioned earlier how he was able to renegotiate his contract with Motown and that the benefits that he was awarded in the contract were unprecedented for any recording artist at that time? Well, that man that negotiated these new terms was his former attorney, Johannan Vagoda. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. Well, Stevie Wonder was sued by Vagoda's widow for $7 million, and I'm going to read this article in regards to the lawsuit, so here it goes. The widow of Stevie Wonder's longtime entertainment attorney is uptight but not all right. She claims the musician owes her $7 million in royalty fees. Susan Strack is the widow of Johann Vagoda, who worked for Wonder for 40 years as his entertainment transactional attorney and managed Wonder's Jobette music catalog, according to her February 26 federal complaint. She says her husband worked for Wonder from 1971 until Vagoda died on November 17, 2011. She claimed her husband helped Wonder escape from a quote-unquote oppressive working relationship with record companies to having one of the most lucrative contract terms in the music industry. Vagoda was known as one of the most effective attorneys in the music industry, Strack says, and Wonder agreed to pay him a 6% fee on royalties forever. She claims the royalty fee agreements were made several times, and a trusted witness was read the terms to Wonder before he placed his mark on them, which was his fingerprint followed by the signature of the witness. Wonder, whose given name is Stevie Morris, is blind. 5 other entities also named as defendants, including Black Bull Music, Taurus Productions, Sawandi Music, and Stevie Morris Music. Strack claims that the royalty agreements with Vagoda were signed, sealed, and delivered and transferred to her upon his death. The payments continued for about 20 months after Vagoda died, but Strack says Wonder decided to break the deals and instructed all music companies to cease payments to Strack and Vagoda's estate in mid-2013. With the royalties no longer at her fingertips, Strack says she made every possible effort to persuade Wonder and the record companies to reinstate that 6% fee, and even accepted pennies on the dollar for the actual value, but Wonder refused. She says, leaving her with no choice but to seek back payment plus punitive damages for fees and compensation to which she is rightfully and legally entitled. She also seeks damages and punitive damages for breach of written agreement, intentional interference with contract and conversation. Strack also seeks declaratory judgment that Wonder and his heirs and successors must continue paying her and Vagoda's heirs and successors the 6% fee. This lady is really crazy. So what was in this new contract that was so wonderful and unprecedented that his attorney and his family felt entitled to a percentage of Stevie Wonder's earnings for all their generations? Well, according to Medium Premier's music publication, these were a few of the publicized perks in his new recording contract with Motown. Not everything was disclosed to the public, of course, but it states that he was to get a new 3-year agreement for Wonder's services as a recording artist and producer that took effect from the 1st of July in 1971. The musician's royalty rate increased to 14% and received an advance of more than $900,000 plus substantial annual guarantees. A new Jobette publishing deal was agreed upon, and Motown also gave Wonder the option to buy shares in the firm if it went public, which it never did. I'm not seeing anything here that would warrant this family feeling entitled to his earnings for generations. I'm certain that Mr. Vagoda was compensated well after doing his job and negotiating the best possible contract for his client, and he continued to profit off this one negotiation until his death. And in my personal opinion, this is why artists end up broke and not having anything to pass down to their own children. Stevie Wonder has 9 children that deserve to live well off his legacy and hard work, not this parasitic family. And according to TMZ, Wonder knew that he was giving up 6% of his royalties, and he was allegedly okay with that part. What he reportedly didn't know was that the contract contained a clause allowing Vagoda's family to collect the percentage forever after his death. Stevie Wonder claims that when Vagoda read the contract out loud, he allegedly omitted that part, and that Stevie would have never agreed to those terms if he heard that. But I'm still perplexed as to how getting a percentage of his publishing was even up for discussion. He got paid for the job. There shouldn't be any residuals for you and your loved ones for doing your job. This is really sick and predatory in my opinion, and they definitely took advantage of his youth and disability, because that's an insane ass to begin with. The other odd thing about this case is that some publications say that the judge threw out the widow's lawsuit, and other publications state that they reached some sort of agreement on July 31st of 2017 and the case was closed. So I'm not 100% sure of the outcome, but I do hope that the family never saw another dime of his money again. Stevie Wonder's net worth is an estimated $200 million after selling 100 million records worldwide and having songwriting and publishing royalties for countless artists, including himself. People also sample his music, and he has revenue from touring. In 2020, he announced that he would take a short break from touring because he was receiving a kidney transplant.
Famed singer and songwriter Stevie Wonder made a surprise announcement in the middle of his Saturday night concert in London.
So what's going to happen is this. I'm going to have surgery.
Oh, he wants to have surgery.
I'm going to have a kidney transplant in September of this year.
The 69-year-old says he made the announcement to stop the spread of rumors about his health. Wonder says he has found a donor and will be okay. Tens of thousands of fans were at the show to see the 25-time Grammy Award winner. Wonder didn't give any more details on his health status, but thanked the fans for their love.
This is the 26-year House Full of Toys, but this time we're switching things up at the Fonda Theater. We've got 4 incredible nights of music, song, and celebration. And I want you to bring the light each night. I'll bring the songs, the music, the joy. You bring the love, the laughter, and good energy at the 26th House Full of Toys benefit celebration. By the way, put your money where your heart is.
The Stevie Wonder 26 House Full of Toys celebration events at the Fonda Theater have been canceled. A week and a half ago, I came up with the idea of doing 4 nights at the Fonda Theater to raise money for a House Full of Toys. Big idea, little time. So because of that little time, I've decided to cancel all 4 shows. Yet still, I will this year put my money where my heart is by giving a substantial donation for the children for House Full of Toys. And next year, we will again do House Full of Toys with a big idea and enough time to put it together. Stevie Wonder. It was also announced on social media that in 2026 he would be kicking off a world tour, but I checked all the major ticket outlets and didn't find any dates, so I guess it's a hoax. But hopefully everything is great with Stevie Wonder and that he's in good health and he's relaxing. He's definitely earned it. This man has been making people rich since he was a child.
How do you feel about the word retirement? Dun, dun, dun.
How do you feel about it?
Not good. I feel quite negatively about it.
Why do you feel?
Because it feels like an ending, and I don't like the idea of ending. I don't, especially like if it's concerning me personally. If I'm in a job that I love, I won't want to end it. I might want to change how I do it, but I won't want to end it. So this idea of retiring feels like too definitive, too.
Do you feel that you have more things to do in life?
100%.
Even after you are terminated or you're fired or it's time for you to whatever, do you feel there's more for you to do in life?
Yeah.
For as long as you breathe, for as long as your heart beats, there's more for you to do.
Right.
So as far as retiring, I think when it feels like your spirit is saying, okay, chill, enough, do whatever. Talk to, Tamika, and throughout the years, the people that I've loved about, hey, let's go on a vacation. Come go to California National Park and let's.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, I love playing music.
Right.
That's like my mantra.
Uh-huh.
So I think I can do all the stuff I want to do, still have fun and do what I need to do. But I'm not going to stop the gift that keeps pouring through my body. No one's worth me doing that.
No.
But they wouldn't want me to do it.
No, that would be a very sad day.
So I think that, even if I'm not like, whether you're a superstar or whatever, I'm not thinking about that. I love doing what I'm doing. An artist doesn't stop, drawing. No. Just because, you keep on. So as long as you can imagine is as long as you are going to be creative and as long as you let your mind work, you don't have to retire.
Well, it's lasted a long time for you. I mean, you're still out here doing these songs, you're still on tour.
I do, but I don't take it for granted.
Why do you still do it? Why are you still out here?
Well, it goes back to the destiny thing. I made a bargain with it, a long time ago, and I'm holding up my end.
What was your bargain?
To get where I am now.
Should I ask who you made the bargain with?
with the chief commander.
On this earth?
And on this earth, and then in the world we can't see.
It was this interview right here that inspired the Forced to Tour series. Bob Dylan is probably considered one of the greatest musicians of all time, one of the most decorated and respected artists for sure. When he writes songs, he dispenses every type of literary technique in his arsenal to paint a coded picture for his audiences through his poetic words and music. But what if in this interview, a rarity in his career, as he has shunned the media and sit-down interviews, what if he's being honest and literal about why at 84 years old he's still on the road? He was in his 60s when he did this infamous interview. Many viewers believed it was an admission that he sold his soul to become famous, and at times he seems to be very coy as to how his lyrical masterpieces even came into fruition. What if what he is alluding to is all about selling his soul for fame or musical talent? He wouldn't be the first artist to have allegedly done so.
There's a man who changed music forever and then died before anyone found out who he was. Robert Johnson was born in Mississippi in 1911, the 11th child in a poor sharecropping family. Only 2 photos and no videos of him exist today. For most of his adult life, he drifted from place to place, playing guitar and singing in juke joints around the South. At first, he was kind of an unremarkable musician. People called him noisy. But not long after his wife and their baby died in childbirth, he was so devastated that he disappeared. For a year and a half, no one knew where Robert Johnson went. When he came back, something had changed. He was playing so good that it scared people. Without any explanation for how he had gotten so good, the story became that he had gone down to a crossroads deep in the Delta swamps and sold his soul to Satan in return for the ability to play anything he wanted. But Robert Johnson only ever recorded his music 2 times, both in a hotel room while visiting Dallas, Texas, with a total of 29 songs made in his life. But tracks like Crossroad Blues, Me and the Devil, and Hellhound on My Trail, they paint a mysterious picture of a tortured soul haunted by both supernatural forces and the pain of his own life. His lyrics were filled with hellhounds, demons, dark nights, deals with the devil. His guitar playing was almost possessed, and his singing was ghostly. 1 year after Robert Johnson did those recordings in Texas, a producer from New York that had heard his records went looking to book him for a show at Carnegie Hall, something that probably would have made him a bigger name and taken him out of the poverty he was living in Mississippi. But instead of being able to book him, the producer ended up finding out that Robert Johnson had mysteriously died at the age of 27. Some say he was poisoned by a jealous husband, others say it was from a genetic disease, but either way, his grave was never found. But decades later, Robert Johnson is recognized as a creative genius. Led Zeppelin would later say that they owed him their existence. Bob Dylan would say, "If I hadn't heard Robert Johnson, there are hundreds of lyrics I never would have written." There's no doubt that rock and roll and even hip hop wouldn't have become what they are today without the influence of Robert Johnson's singing and guitar playing. But Robert Johnson never got rich off of his craft, and he was never famous while he was alive, not finding an audience until about 20 years after his death. But his music still lives on today, and it will forever.
Robin Allen Zimmerman was born on May 24, 1941 in Duluth, Minnesota, and grew up in a nearby Hibbing in the iron mining region of northeastern Minnesota. From an early age, he was captivated by music, absorbing the burgeoning sounds of Hank Williams, Little Richard, Elvis Presley, and Johnny Ray, which showed him that music could be raw, emotional, and deeply expressive. He acquired his first guitar at age 14 in 1955, a moment that set the course for a life defined by song. Even as a teenager, Zimmerman played in a local rock and roll band, an early sign of his ambition beyond the Midwestern mining town where his father co-owned a furniture store and appliance business. In high school, he discovered folk music and beat poetry, especially the work of Woody Guthrie. Guthrie's blend of social commentary and earthy storytelling resonated deeply with the young Zimmerman, adopting the name Bob Dylan, inspired by the Welsh poet Dylan Thomas. He embraced a new identity that aligned more with his artistic aspirations than his given name. After a brief stint playing the piano for rising pop star artist Bobby V, Dylan enrolled at the University of Minnesota. There he gravitated toward the local folk scene in Minneapolis' Dinkytown district, performing in coffee houses and immersing himself in the growing network of folk musicians. Still yearning for something more transformative, he resolved to meet his musical hero, Woody Guthrie, who was hospitalized in New Jersey. The desire propelled him to New York City in January of 1961, a bold move into the heart of Greenwich Village's folk revival. Greenwich Village in the early 1960s buzzed with young artists and political radicals. Dylan's unpolished voice and profound lyrics quickly drew attention. Within months of his arrival, he was playing at Gerd's Folk City and drawing crowds of devotees to his sets. His talent caught the attention of producer John Hammond, who signed him to Columbia Records after a glowing review in the New York Times. Despite Columbia's executives initially dubbing him Hammond's Folly, he embarked on a recording career that would transform popular music. Bob Dylan's debut album came out in March of 1962 and was met with mixed reviews, but showcased a young artist rooted in traditional folk and blues. It was his second album, The Freewheelin' Bob Dylan, dropping in 1963, that propelled him into a public consciousness. Tracks such as Blowin' in the Wind and A Hard Rain Is Gonna Fall blended poetic lyricism with urgent questions about freedom, justice, and human rights. Blowin' in the Wind became an anthem of the civil rights movement, covered famously by Peter, Paul, and Mary, and embraced across the nation as a song of conscience.
You wrote Blowin' in the Wind in 10 minutes, is that right?
Probably.
Just like that?
Yeah.
Where did it come from?
It came from, it was like, right out of that wellspring of creativity, I would think, you know?
By 1963, Dylan was prolific. Albums like The Times They Are A-Changin' solidified his reputation as a leading voice of the era's social movements. His songs captured discontent and inspired optimism among listeners who saw Dylan as a spokesman for a generation pushing for societal transformation. His artistic relationship with fellow folk icon Joan Baez amplified his reach. She introduced him to thousands of fans and helped elevate his prominence. Yet even amid his folk success, Dylan's artistic vision began evolving. In 1964, he released Another Side of Bob Dylan, a more personal and introspective set that steered away from overt protest themes. The shift hinted at his widening musical ambitions, an evolution that would soon astonish and in some sectors alienate his audience.
Bob Dylan, the symbol of the 60s.
To who?
To the youth of the 60s.
Who says that?
Wasn't you the symbol?
I didn't ever say that.
Do you think?
Dylan sparked perhaps the most controversial turn of his career in 1965 with Bringing It All Back Home. Dylan brought a band into the studio mixing electric instruments with his folk roots. The resulting sound was radical, ushering in a new hybrid of folk and rock that blurred musical boundaries. The most infamous public moment came at the 1965 Newport Folk Festival, where Dylan played with an electrified backing band. But some in the crowd felt betrayed by his departure from acoustic purity and booed his performance. The reaction fueled as much by surprise and misunderstanding as by resistance to change, yet the performance marked a turning point. Dylan had effectively shattered the perceived constraints of folk music and signaled a new era for himself in pop music. Dylan's sound in this period was brash, inventive, and lyrically dense. Highway 61 Revisited introduced Like a Rolling Stone, a 6-minute blast of electric rock that became one of Dylan's signature songs and one of the most influential recordings in rock history. His follow-up, Blonde on Blonde, was a sprawling double album blending surreal imagery with earthy blues, cementing his reputation as one of the most adventurous songwriters alive. That same year, Dylan married Sarah Lowens on November 22, 1965, and continued to tour extensively, including internationally. His England tour in 1965 was documented for the film Don't Look Back. By the mid-1960s, the whirlwind of fame, relentless touring, and public scrutiny began to take a toll. In July 1966, Dylan suffered a motorcycle accident near his home in Woodstock, New York. A collision that curtailed his touring and triggered a period of withdrawal from public life. For years, the details were shrouded in myth. Dylan himself was quiet about the incident, merely indicating it forced him into a needed hiatus from performing. Could this have been the moment in his life where he made that deal? I don't know. But let's continue.
I'm a 60s troubadour, a folk rock relic, a wordsmith from bygone days. I'm in the bottomless pit of cultural oblivion. Those are pretty harsh words.
Well, I'd seen all these titles written about me. You know.
And you started to believe it?
Well, I believed it anyway. You know, I wasn't getting any thrill out of performing. I thought it might be time to close it up, you know?
You really thought about quitting, folding up the tent?
I had thought I'd just put it away for a while. But then I started thinking that's enough, you know?
During this retreat from the road, Dylan entered a prolific creative period. He recorded a wealth of material with members of the band, much of which was later released as The Basement Tapes in 1975. These sessions blended Americana, rock, folk, and country influences and themes Dylan would explore across his career. Also during the late 1960s, Dylan embraced country music, which was reflected in albums like John Wesley Harding, Nashville Skyline, and New Morning. Nashville Skyline in particular revealed a softer, more conversational vocal style and a willingness to experiment with genres beyond the expectations of his folk roots. In 1974, Dylan emerged from seclusion and embarked on the first major tour in nearly 8 years. Joined by the band, the live album Before the Flood captured this reunion's vigor, and the studio album Planet Waves became Dylan's first #1 on the Billboard charts. The mid-1970s brought some of Dylan's most endearing work. The 1975 release of Blood on the Tracks is widely regarded as a masterpiece of personal songwriting, an emotionally raw collection that many feel reflects the turmoil in his own marriage. Desire, 1976, followed, featuring the powerful narrative Hurricane, written about boxer Reuben Hurricane Carter's controversial imprisonment. Both albums topped charts and reaffirmed Dylan's prominence in the rock world.
A number of celebrities like Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, Joan Baez, and Joni Mitchell start talking publicly about his plight. Reuben Carter then sends a copy of the book to Bob Dylan, and Dylan reads it while on a flight to France. He's so moved by Reuben Carter's story that after he returns from France, he arranges to meet him at Rahway Prison in New Jersey. According to Reuben Carter, they hit it off and make quite a connection. It was after meeting Carter that Dylan decides he'll write a song about him. According to George Lois, a famous ad man from New York who took up Reuben Carter's cause, he helps persuade Dylan to write a song about Reuben Carter in a meeting they have in Connecticut. Whatever the motive, in the song, Dylan wants to tell the story of what's happened to Reuben Carter and how he was framed. He'll use the notes he took when he met Carter, along with the autobiography, as the basis for the lyrics. The interesting thing, though, is that Bob Dylan, despite being a master lyricist and songwriter, is not a great storyteller in his songs. So he recruits a man named Jacques Levy, a stage director and lyricist, and asks him to help out. Levy agrees, and they set out to write the song. As Levy says of his role, Bob wasn't sure they could write a song about Hurricane. I think the first step was putting the song in a total storytelling mode. I don't remember whose idea it was to do that, but really the beginning of the song is like stage directions, like what you would read in a script. Pistol shots ring out in a barroom night. Here comes the story of the hurricane.
As Jacques Levy stating that Bob Dylan wasn't a good storyteller came off a little shady to me, but he later clarifies that he's not a great linear storyteller.
It's the timing of the release of the song that I find so incredibly unique. What Dylan is doing with this song is akin to throwing gasoline on a fire. The fire being the groundswell of support that's building for the injustice that has been done to Reuben Carter. The case had huge publicity when it initially occurred, with headlines nationwide including in the New York Times. Reuben's autobiography is then released in 1974. Celebrities left and right start jumping on his cause. The two key witnesses in the case recant their stories, which is made very public. And then in the midst of all this, an 8.5-minute song which line by line describes the saga is released to the public. It's so long at 8.5 minutes that it can't even be put on one side of a single, and it's split up into 2 parts to take up both the A and B sides. The song garners rave reviews and is one of Dylan's biggest hit songs of the 1970s. Billboard declares that it's probably the most powerful song Dylan has recorded in a decade.
In 1975 through 76, Dylan and collaborators toured as the Rolling Thunder Revue, a nomadic theatrical concert series that assembled a rotating cast of musicians and friends, including Joan Baez, Allen Ginsberg, and Roger McGuinn. The tour blurred the lines between audience and performers and was later documented in a film that recorded and captured its electric spontaneity. Dylan and Sarah divorced in 1977, ending a decade of marriage, that had produced 4 children. This period of personal upheaval coincided with further creative shifts and set the stage for his next major transformation. In a dramatic turn, Dylan publicly declared himself as a born-again Christian in 1979, a phase reflected in albums such as Slow Train Coming and Saved. His lyrics took on overtly spiritual themes, and live performances during the gospel tour of 1979 through 80 featured him preaching between songs, spotlighting religious material. Despite some critical dividedness, this era yielded commercial success and earned him his first solo Grammy for Gotta Serve Somebody.
They said that they would like to remind Dylan fans and audiences that one's right to say something does not per se lend any validity to the statement. So in essence what they're saying is that you have followers who are going to be at the concert and are going to listen to the message of your music.
Right. I follow God. So if my followers are following me, indirectly they're going to be following God too, because I don't sing any song which hasn't been given to me by the Lord to sing.
So some of you may hear that statement and say that he believes in God, therefore he couldn't have sold his soul. I believe at that point in his life, yes. But in the Ed Bradley interview, he said this about writing songs in the past. He makes a distinction in his interviews which songs are inspired by God, his gospel music, and which ones come from quote-unquote magic, his earlier work, those songs that brought him notoriety and fame.
You ever look at music that you've written and look back at it and say, whoa, that surprised me?
I used to. I don't do that anymore. I don't know how I got to write those songs.
What do you mean you don't know how?
Well, those early songs were like almost magically written. Try to sit down and write something like that. There's a magic to that. And it's not Siegfried and Roy kind of magic, you know. It's a different kind of a penetrating magic. And you know, I did it. I did it at one time.
You don't think you can do it today?
Mm-mm.
Does that disappoint you? I mean...
Well, you can't do something forever, and I did it once, and I can do other things now, but I can't do that.
What kind of beliefs do you have in yourself to write the kinds of songs you write?
Not really a belief. I have very little belief in myself to do anything. I just pull it off, you know, and it's amazing to me even that I do.
This answer seems pretty vague to me, but that's Bob Dylan. He's going to give you just enough to allow you to interpret the information the way you see fit. In my opinion, I think he sold his soul in more ways than one. It was recently revealed that he sold his entire catalog. Bob Dylan, one of the few artists in control of his masters and publishing, has sold off his entire life's work.
Bob Dylan has sold his entire songwriting catalog to Universal Music Publishing Group for an undisclosed price that's estimated to be more than $300 million, the New York Times reports. Dylan has had control over nearly all of his songwriting copyrights throughout his career, and the new deal encompasses over 600 songs up through his most recent album, Rough and Rowdy Ways. UMPG reportedly negotiated the deal directly with Dylan. UMPG's CEO, Jody Gerson, said, quote, "To represent the body of work of one of the greatest songwriters of all time, whose cultural importance can't be overstated, is both a privilege and a responsibility. As part of the deal with UMPG, the company will gain 100% of Dylan's publishing and collect on the income he would have received as the songwriter and controller of each song's copyright. It doesn't, however, include any future songs Dylan may write."
Now, some will see this and say maybe he needed the money, but prior to the sale of his catalog, he had a net worth of a reported $200 million, revenue that he earned from his quote-unquote never-ending tour. Remember, Bob Dylan has consistently toured globally since the 1980s, and this year he will be launching another tour starting in March. And maybe this is another way of Bob Dylan demonstrating that he is not attached to his work like that. He easily flowed in and out of musical genres like it was nothing, not caring if he alienated fans along the way. I just assumed after 10 Grammys, over 125 million records sold, a Pulitzer, and a Nobel Peace Prize, he cared deeply about maintaining ownership of his work. But over the years, music purists have voiced their disappointment in hearing Bob Dylan's music featured in various commercials and accused him of being a sellout. And with the sale of his massive catalog, it now brings his net worth to a staggering $500 million, which, given how valuable his music has proven to be, seems like he got cheated. But y'all tell me what you think. One truth that Bob Dylan has maintained consistently throughout his career is that we do not know him, and we have to stop imposing our perceptions of him onto him.
You feel like an imposter when someone thinks you're something and you're not.
What was the image that people had of you, and what was the reality?
The image of me was certainly not a songwriter or a singer. It was more like some kind of a threat to society in some kind of way.
What was the toughest part for you personally?
It was like being in an Edgar Allan Poe story. You're just not that person everybody thinks you are, although they call you that all the time. You're the prophet, you're the savior. I never wanted to be a prophet or savior. Elvis, maybe. Well, I could easily see myself becoming him, but prophet, no.
All right, friends, so what do you think? Did Bob Dylan sell his soul? And the reason that he's still on tour today is to hold up his end of the bargain? And what about the other artists featured? In your opinion, why are they still at it? By choice or by force? And I also want to give a quick update on Barry Manilow, who was featured in part 1. It was recently announced that his lung surgery was successful, and they are sending him to work and adding 6 more shows to what they are calling his final tour, so we shall see. Anyway, if you made it this far, you are a real friend. Thank you so much for watching, and please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe.